Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. You are tuning into the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. My name is Brett Segal, the Disgruntled Millennial. You can get me at Shack General, or you can check out my Facebook, The Disgruntled Millennial. I always broadcast to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I am free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy. Unfortunately, today I'm not free from your leftist hypocrisy dealing with black on white crime. Today we are here with Colin Flaherty. He is an award-winning author. He has been dealing with this hypocrisy in the media for such a long time now, and I want to give him the floor. We're going to talk a little bit about his books and some of the things that he also does out there on his YouTube channel. Don't make the black kids angry and white girl bleed a lot. These are some really provocative names, and these are provocative names about books that are about black crime. Now, explain to us how you got some of those names and why you chose to use it.
Well, in Kansas City, Missouri, there's a place called the Country Club Plaza. It's an upscale place where all the nice people go for dinner and a movie, and you walk around the plaza. They built this plaza right next to a huge public housing project in a ghetto. So the plaza is a center of large-scale black mob violence over 100 times in the last 5 years. And every time it happens, the reporters freak, the people freak. It's always the teenagers, but you see the video. But that's the thing, right? It's like we have the video, so we know who's doing it,
right?
And so they wanted to make a curfew to control the teens. And the former mayor of Kansas City, his name is Emanuel Cleaver. He's now a congressman. So he was back in town, and so they put a microphone in his face and they said, "Hey, what about this? What about this curfew at Country Club Plaza? Are you down with that?" He said, "No, because all that's going to do is make a lot of black kids angry."
Right.
And so. Yeah.
Right. So that's where that name came from, and the name "White Girl Bleed a Lot." That's a very, very provocative name. It's got a little Ebonics kind of tinge to it. Let's talk about how you came up with that name, because I mean this is just one of those things that's like it's like you almost have to be that aggressive in your words in order for people to acknowledge the hypocrisy that's going on a daily basis, because people are literally dying.
Okay, so this came out of Milwaukee, and before I started writing and doing videos about this, I had no idea that Kansas City and Milwaukee were centers of black criminality wildly out of proportion. So this was a couple years ago, 4th of July, a couple of white kids are having a picnic, 4th of July picnic. Meanwhile, a few blocks away, on video, 50 to 100 black people are rampaging through a convenience store, stealing the chips and the grocery and the candies and the beer. They took all their stuff, and they went down to the park where they see the white kids. All of a sudden, they start beating the hell out of a couple of these white kids that were there. And at one point, a black woman is standing on top of a white woman. She's pointing on the ground to her. And but she's also kind of like motioning her friends, say, "Hey, look at this, look at this." She points down to the chick on the ground and says, "White girl bleed a lot." That was enormously hilarious to everybody involved. Oh, by the way, the next day, the kids that were attacked, beat up really badly, they go down to the police station and they say, can we get a copy of that police report of what happened to us? And they go, what police report? What happened to you? And there was no police report. Nothing happened.
Unreal.
So it took about a week later, these kids wouldn't stop, right? They just kept going to the talk shows, to the TV. And about a week later, the mayor and police chief came out and said, "Well, I think we had a little misunderstanding here." And that's when the police chief of Milwaukee, who's still in office, he assured us that this crime had nothing to do with race. It was just kind of a coincidence that all the people involved on one side were black and the other people were white.
Right. Well, I actually know personally, because a bunch of family that I have who are extreme hardcore leftists and extreme leftist shills. They live there, and they are basically the pinnacles of white guilt. And I'm sure that if there was any sort of racial component there, that the norm in Milwaukee would be to completely deny any sort of racial component, even though this incident clearly delineates a racial component to what is going on in Milwaukee.
So your family, and a lot of us have family like that. So your family in Milwaukee can deny it on intellectually, but on another level, I mean, they're not denying it on other levels. I mean, we know that your family does not send their children to black schools in Milwaukee. We know they don't go to the ghetto to go to the newest barbecue restaurant down there. We know they don't go shopping in black neighborhoods. They don't go to church in black neighborhoods. So on one level, you can deny it, but on another level, you don't live there, you don't own a house there, and you never would, because on some level, you know that a lot of black people just are not into white people. There's an enormous amount of black on white hostility in this country that a lot of people have trouble getting their minds around.
You know, I personally, and this is one of the things that I like to discuss on the show, is the sort of meta reasons why all this is going on. And I really truly believe that there is a concerted effort among the left to try to stoke these kinds of racial hatred towards white people. The whole thing about institutional racism, by black parents having to teach their kids about mugshots and all this stuff, and about white supremacy and all this. And you can't get ahead because of your black skin. And you're, the person sitting next to you in class who happens to be white, he's got institutional advantages above you. I mean, to me, this is a part of a concerted effort to stoke the kind of racial hatred that so many people have spent years trying to quell.
Well, the only way I know how to fight a lie is with the truth. And so just last night, I'm listening to NPR, and I have a little meter that goes off in my head when I listen to NPR now. And I wait to see how long it takes before they inject race into even the most non-racial story. NPR is relentless stories about black victimization and white racism. And so last night, driving around, there's a storytelling show on a Sunday night. A black woman is starting her story off, and she goes, back in 1977, and I thought, okay, yeah. All we need now is, a soundtrack of black people on a chain gang singing these work songs, and sure enough, that's what it was. She had something that happened to her in grade school, and this was a complete condemnation of all white racism all the time, everywhere, that is causing black people so much trouble. But what I document is that black people are not the victims; they are the predators. And what we see on television a lot is the opposite of that. So I'm really trying to counter that.
Right. And one of the things that you've also been privy to is a lot of the hoaxes that are going on, because look, where you're not going to find the evidence, you're just not going to find the evidence of white people going around committing these racially charged crimes. It's just not there. So you've been privy to a lot of, with the community that you sort of built up, now you sort of have been, you've been told about, and there's all sorts of hoaxes going on, basically, where people try to pretend like there's this white against black crime is a bigger problem than it actually is. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, let me run off just a couple recent examples. This one actually got by me a little bit, and I had to depend on a YouTube channel called Atheism is Unstoppable for this one. And so there was a huge story out of New Hampshire saying a black child was lynched by a bunch of white teenagers. And this was a national story. And it went on for days and days and days. Till finally, we found a picture of the victim. It wasn't a black kid. It was a white kid. So some white kids on a playground stuck a rope around somebody's neck, and there were some rope burns on the kid's neck. Bad enough. But race had nothing to do with it, since the victim was white. And we've done in at the University of Maryland and at the BART station in San Francisco, and this story's been repeated 10 times in the last 2 months. Racist graffiti, there's like somebody drops an M-bomb or something. They finally find out who did it after lots and lots of news stories, lots of accusations, lots of exclamations at, white people got to do better. It was a hoax. It was black people doing this racist graffiti.
Right.
There's so much of this going on.
Honestly, it makes me kind of sick to my stomach, this whole business about the N-word. Listen, there is not one group of people who are more cavalier and loose-lipped about using the N-word than folks who are black. it's just not as much a thing. Another thing that kind of irks me is that there isn't one word to say about white people that is absolutely universally condemned. And I know this because I went to a mostly black school. My mom took me out of private school, and because she wanted me to have a more diverse kind of elementary school experience, kind of sent me to the area of town where I would be the minority. And I can tell you, I have not heard cracker, honky, white boy so many times in my entire life as I was when I was around a bunch of black kids. And it was
let me ask you this. How many white kids are in that school?
Not that many. I'll tell you a little bit more about it when we come back. This is Brett Segal, the Disgruntled Millennial. We're here with Colin Flaherty. We'll be right back.
Kevin Jackson
on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.